Hi, I'm Sean Brody from the BW Group, and we guide homeowners and investors to make better real estate decisions. If you're like most of the buyers who are in the market for a home this year, you've probably started your research with one of those handy mortgage pre-approval forms that all the banks offer online. You've read all the tips and advice about the process, and step number one is always, you got it, get pre-approved. Figure out what you can afford and be sure you're shopping in the right price range. With these online affordability calculators, you punch in your income, your debts, and the term of your loan, and the interest rate. Now, your buddy just got locked in at 1.7%, so you're gonna use that number in the calculator. A minute later, you get the great news. Honey, we can afford to shop up to $600,000. Let's start looking for a home. We're all good. Does this sound familiar? The problem is, a few of the big banks are leaving out one really important information on these forms, and it's a pretty big problem. It's called the stress test. If you want to find out how to avoid being misled about how much you can really afford, and you want to find out what the stress test is and how it affects you, stay tuned. My team will be shooting an educational video every week. So if you have a topic that you'd like to see covered, just comment below and we'll do our best to put out a video answering your questions. If you like receiving tips and advice on all things real estate, do us a solid and hit that like and subscribe button. All right, let's jump in. So what's the stress test? Well, just like its name, it was designed to ensure that you're financially able to weather some stress in the event that you encounter some financial hardship, or more importantly, if interest rates jump up. The government implemented it back in 2018 to prevent Canadians from taking on too much debt. To pass the stress test, you have to qualify at your negotiated mortgage rate plus 2%, or the Bank of Canada's posted benchmark rate, whichever is higher. Today, that would be a rate of 4.79%. That's the posted benchmark rate, whereas available rates are as low as 1 to 1.5%. So, if your mortgage affordability calculator does not take the stress test into account, a couple of the good ones do, you'll be misled about what you can afford. I did the following trial run on two of these sites to illustrate my point. The first banking site didn't mention the stress test. I punched in a family income of $100,000 and a typical down payment of $50,000. For the interest rate, I used 2%. I was told that I could afford a house up to $645,000. When I used another site that applied the stress test interest rate of 4.79%, that affordability number dropped to $518,000. Now, aside from getting a false affordability quote, you must also avoid the trap of confusing an online affordability calculator with a mortgage pre-approval. These are two very different things. A legit pre-approval must be done by a mortgage broker or mortgage specialist and will include you having to provide some financial information with the application. They won't just take your word for it that you earn $500 grand a year with your YouTube channel. I can't tell you how many buyers I run into that think they can afford X for a house and actually they can only afford Y. It can cause some unsuspecting buyers to waste a lot of time shopping for homes they can't even afford. So, how do you get the right info? You have to work with a qualified lender. Go through the proper process. Dig up your paperwork and hand in your T4s, your notices of assessment, and your proof of employment. Run that credit check and get a proper pre-approval done. That way you'll know exactly where you stand and you won't waste your time looking at homes you can't afford. And when it comes time to make an offer on that dream house, the seller will take you way more seriously since you have the paperwork to back up your offer. As always, thanks for watching.